Okay, hi guys, it is me, feeling alright. My eye might be a little red in this video, so zoom in very closely and maybe you can see it, or maybe you can see it already, but that's how I am doing the intro to this video. So today we're going to be taking a look at Mr. Bradley's kit, and then we will be doing a look at his performance in a second video. That's the way I'm choosing to do that this year. One, for organization. Two, because ad revenue. Sorry guys, it's a tough year for everybody. Inflation is hitting hard. So let's talk about Mr. Bradley, the last of the Full Metal Alchemist characters to be included in the game, and certainly worth the wait, because let me tell you, this guy is looking to be a great addition to the game and a fantastic addition to the Earth element. Now, am I going to go out of the way to say that this character is a must-pull? No. Before we get too far into this video, he's not a must-pull in terms of at least initial impressions. He may get there, but he's got some work to do first, because we might be looking at a little bit of issues. So here, let's jump into the Wotv Calc data. As always, we're going to be using Wotv Calc because it's so well organized, so visually perfect to show off. Earth Elemental Limited, 100 cost character with 3 move, 1 jump, 3 jobs, his main job basically being his own unique one, which is particularly pretty good for him, and as well as Operative / Spy and Trick Lancer. So a good combination of stuff. Uses swords, hats, clothing, and accessories, and that's a pretty good overall kit for him. I mean, like, this is generally pretty good. Now, as for his Trust Mastery is another great piece of equipment, and something that I think a lot of Earth players and general players will be tempted to get, because we are looking at haste increase of 42%, as well for 3 turns, and an increased reaction block rate of 50, which is just good across all units. Being able to cancel out reaction block is strong, in combination with haste is also very strong. Taking a look at the accessory itself, 289 HP, 8 defense, 3 agility, 8 accuracy, and 6 crit is basically just across multiple different fronts, good for a lot of different characters. It's an accessory, so it can be equipped by basically anyone. Excuse me. And I mean, you can build this thing in many different ways with Trust Mastery runes to be good for a lot of different situations. And I think it's just overall a good piece of equipment. I don't think it's insane, but I do think it is really good. As for his master ability, increase Earth attack for allies stuff. And we're also looking at missile resistance and AoE resistance, so it does give him a little bit of survivability, which is good. Dream ability, or reincarnation, going up to level 140 will give him an extra 15% HP, which is going to be important for him, as we're going to talk about, and reaction block rate of 30. So that, with his Trust Mastery, is looking at 80 already. That's really, really good. Now, we're going to jump over here and take a look at the friend unit in combination with all of these vision cards you see across the bottom here. I mean, stat-wise, we're going to come back to it. You could pause, but this is what I really want to talk about. Resistances are nothing to really write home about, but definitely not bad here. We're looking at slashing, piercing, shooting, and magic resistance all in the net positives without too much outside influence, which is really good. We're also looking at, strong against thunder, weak against wind, which is to be expected, but slow, paralyze, and frostbite resistance are his big resistances here, and pretty good overall combination. Looking at the sword that comes with his event, is a pretty damn strong sword. 160 attack, but the general buff for this thing is just a 25% attack bonus when you include Bradley's exclusive bonuses for equipping the sword. 15 for slash attack and 20 for slash attack resistance penetration are both overall, it's dare I say, even a little bit strong And he also gets a CT boost when his HP hits a critical amount, which is good. I mean, because he does have Immortal Spirit / Guts hit, which means that you can most of the time get this to proc. And I mean, overall, it's just a strong weapon for a strong character and a pretty big attack boost. As for the Panda, the raid piece of equipment, light and dark bonuses for resistances, as you can see, defense and spirit, HP, and critical are as follows on this one, but also gives him human killer of 10 and initial AP of 15%. Now that is also for the other Full Metal Alchemist characters, not just him, but yeah, this is a full Alchemist raid with full Alchemist equipment, and it's pretty good. To note about this character's stats, however, he is rocking 2 attack boosters, basically, from the VCs of 50% and 25% respectively, as well as the new Dark Bahamut Esper, which is really boosting his speed and attack on you. Now, of course, that is also in a full Earth Elemental party, so, you know, those are, like, optimized kind of stats sort of thing, minus having TMR equipped. Alright, looking at support skills, his main support skills, the only thing you really need to look at here, but we'll talk about the other ones as well, by getting into EX, attack plus 24%, defense penetration plus 40, slash attack resistance penetration of 40, and decrease AP consumption of 20. By gives him the opportunity to also have evasion rate and acquired AP, but let's get one thing straight, this is not an evasion character at all. Do not use this ability, it is not worth it. As for operatives, move +1 and decreased chance of being target, that might be a viable option. Looking at what he gets from Trick Lancer, he gets critical rate and defense penetration, which is honestly not bad. If you can get through a defense, this is a lot extra in combination with this. 80% defense penetration with 25 extra critical seems like a good deal. Or nullify confusion and stun, while also giving him an increased accuracy, which is not bad if you know that those status effects are going to be a problem, or that you are hunting evasive characters, who's particularly big. As for the last of his main job supports, agility plus 12% and accuracy plus 25. Really, almost no bad options here for support. I mean, this is the one that you're always going to be running, but lots of good choices for the second one, and I think they are pretty viable in terms of which you want to run for whatever reason, depending on the situation. As for counter, most of his counters aren't too terribly exciting, except for his primary one, which is just the standard Mikiri, as we say in Japanese, or at least in my Japanese guild calls it, chance to counter all damage, evading physical or magical attacks. Now, of course, this will be shut down by enough reaction block and duration, but it is still strong to be in it regardless. Scooching down all the way to his limit burst, here we are looking at slash attack resistance penetration of extra by 40, so if you include that with what we had up at the top, 40 plus 40 equals 80 without even needing a second, a really extra source. Maybe only for 3 turns, but that could be enough. It is also a 3-hitter limit burst, single target. Increases his own CT, very strong, to say the least. Looking at what he got from his sub-jobs, and whether they're Trick Lancer, does give him access to piercing damage, as well as decreasing his own AP consumption if he does land a critical hit, and giving himself just general buffs. Honestly, Trick Lancer feels okay, not amazing. I don't know if it's really going to be super effective because he is focused incredibly heavily on slash, but it does give him a secondary damage type. It does give a piercing damage type, and it does give him some AP manipulation, which is not bad overall. Now, looking at operative, increased evasion rate. Again, this is not something that we are considering for him. Some weird range, some slight modification. Honestly, the reduced damage taken to himself for 3 times while also increasing AP for his agility and granting auto restore might be the best thing in operative, and maybe the only thing you necessarily want. Maybe as well the absorb 30% damage attack, but most of operative slash spy doesn't feel really all that useful to him from initial impression. So taking a look at the part that you'll be sacrificing, you're looking at a short range triple hitter, which is only going to be super important in guild raid and chaining missions. And as for this one, a chance to inflict slow is nice and will probably be really useful in the next guild raid. But other than that, I'm not too worried about this. This feels all superfluous in most other combat or modes in the game. So honestly, my opinion, I kind of like operative just for the barrier and the extra survivability, but I could see maybe Trick Lancer being for a weird type of damage that the opponent is not expecting. Now, of course, a unit needs to stand up on his main kit more than anything, and thankfully, the main kit here is definitely going to stand up to the most scrutiny. Main attack, move to unit panel, deal damage, restore CT, which will be a reoccurring theme unit. His Guts ability, which also gives him a little bit of auto restore, as well as a chance to proc a physic damage of 20%. While I think this ability is very strong, I also think that it is slightly a little bit overrated because Guts can be canceled out by some of the strongest characters in the game right now, and removing that is also removing some stuff off of him, which he kind of needs. Him not having, especially like, I just want to go back here for stats now for a second. If you look at only with these buffs kind of thing and this equipment, only about 8,000 HP at level 140 with that extra HP bonus. This is a little bit of concerning for not fully maxing him out. His HP might not be high enough to survive in particularly high damage situations, but he does have high speed, so it might balance out, but I'm a little dubious on that. I don't think that Guts will necessarily benefit him as much as something like auto re-raid. But, well, no, I kind of take that statement back. I'm just not super convinced that Immortal Spirit or re-raise is ever as big of a deal as it was back in the day. Now it's gone from essentially being a thing that you must have to, just a lot of the top characters already have it, you can cancel it out, so if you don't have it, you're slightly weaker, but not necessarily, is what I'm getting at. Next ability, increase pierce resistance, missile resistance for allies. This is a good thing for them. 20% apiece is a fair amount of extra survivability, and he gains his counter skill for 3 turns, which can deal damage to the opponent. Don't think that it is insanely important, and it'll be interesting to see which one the AI chooses more readily, and whether his AI is super good at casting this consistently for it to be good. But it does give a fair bit, so I will give it a go ahead. Also because it does give him a preemptive skill, which with Sephiroth. Next ability, this is a mouthful, but the simple fact is if he decreases defense on a target, if the target is immune, defense debuff, he won't get any of these, but he can dispel all buffs. Physical damage increases, magical damage increases, and decreased healing power. All of that is particularly very strong here. However, again, if you have defense debuff resistance, which isn't the most difficult thing to get your hands on, then it could kind of mess up. Also, we're going to come back to all of these abilities effectively. His next ability, which does get upgraded twice, breaks physical barriers for targets, increases defense penetration by 50 for self, 200% mod, is an AoE, 30% increased hit chance, and restores CT of 200. This is a good strong ability. It has more range and more AoE, which makes it more flexible, and it's basically his kind of do-all thing. Increasing defense penetration by 50 feels a little, whatever, because he already feels like he has so much access to it. But point is if he can get through the defense, or he will, I should say. And his last ability, Dispel Auto Revive for target, 200% mod, and a 30% hit chance. So, what do I think of overall of this? Well, first off, he is a DPS and does have a good amount of access to survivability to certain situations and not so much to others. So it really will, I think, depend on what units you also put this guy with to figure out how good he is. Like, it wouldn't hurt to have someone else potentially buff him against other sword users, as sword users are pretty popular right now, and even in a mirror matchup, that would make you better into the mirror sort of thing. I do want to make a clear point. He is not an evasion character almost at all. While there is a slight amount of evasion here, it's just not good enough to be competitive against other ones. He is really more of an evasion hunter and a tempo character at that, where he gains TP tempo CT off of some of his attacks and other abilities, while also having an increased hit chance on a bunch of stuff. Now, with that being said, while he does have an increased chance of hitting his opponent, he doesn't have 100% accuracy abilities. That is a weakness. It makes him particularly strong against Yuffie, but ironically weak against the other two fire evasion characters or light evasion. So do I think that it really works perfectly in that sense? No, but there is a lot here to push just a generally accurate character, and that's probably good enough. Also, I think his DPS will most likely be there in most cases, but it depends on who he's facing. Will this unit run rampant on JB? Absolutely not. Wind is still the best in the game, and that just makes this character is just naturally. That being said, this might actually push Earth into being better at dealing with lightning teams overall, and really getting an advantage against those, as well as maybe some other groups, including Ice and whatnot. Not a perfect character by any means in terms of his range, much in the same way as another character who came out recently. One of the things with Wing Stern is that I really liked his kit at the start, but I found over time that his AI not casting the abilities I wanted, as well in combination with the fact that Wing Stern just does not does not have enough range on a lot of his abilities, makes his performance lower than what I would want. Looking at with this character, I can see a lot of potentially similar problems where most of his attacks are fairly short-ranged, requiring him to be very close to an enemy to get the most out of it, and not having too terribly much AoE attacks. Now that's potentially good if your opponents have a lot of AoE resistance. Other than that, I think it could be a little bit weak. But overall, I still think that this character is a really, really, really strong character for the Earth element, and he will do quite well with that. The only question that really remains is how well, and through testing, we'll figure that out in the next video. Thanks so much for watching, take care, and see you next time.